All right, fastest 15 minutes. Gonna try to keep this like I guess on the spiritual side more so than anything else because there's a couple of things I've been like really wanting to talk about, especially about this entire thing with Terrence Howard and also with Dr. Ben Carson. Well, not Ben, that's the wrong one, Billy Carson. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm like, not Ben Carson, Billy Carson, the brother that's well studied in theology and astrophysics and metaphysics and all that. So him, and also have to talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson, also, very brilliant, super intelligent brother, right? And so right now, literally on the face of the planet, like these dudes are like the smartest dudes like out there, And so my thing was that I've been meditating on a lot of this stuff. And it's funny because the whole thing is like you're always like in meditation, or at least in my meditation sphere. What I'm always kind of seeking answers, right? But not answers like from somewhere else, but answers from within myself. But then every now and then, an answer comes from somewhere else, and then you're like, all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, And so, when I was young, my mother was a science teacher, taught science 42 years in the Detroit public school system. God bless her. So I was always around things that were scientific, and I was always around animals, and we had like a dog and stuff like that. So we always had animals, and then I like going camping and fishing and stuff like that because we lived in Michigan. So that's the kind of stuff we did. Well, anyway, so long story short, my mom's had a pyramid, or I don't know if it was my mother's, or if my mother had given it to my sister, or somebody had given it to my sister. It might have been, and then so all of a sudden it's like, and I thought, I was like, man. And so I set some stuff under it one day, and it transformed, right? There was energy, I was like, wow. This is, something just happened. And so from that point on, I was like curious about pyramids, right? Because I was like, wow, this thing because it had power. And I started studying the pyramids and all of that stuff. And I was a kid. I was a little kid. And so then as I started getting older, I used to, I was like that curious kid, and my grandmother had like a radio, right? She had radios. In fact, she had like 3 radios, right? And she had like, she would take one, like she had like a transistor, and she would like take that even to the baseball games and stuff like that, and she would keep it on her ear, because like this is back in the day. This is 60s and 70s, okay? So she gets she's, that's how she gets the stuff. But I wanted to know how it worked, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how does this sound, the baseball game or whatever it was, because she kept this radio on the channel where the Detroit Tigers would play, because that was her squad. And man, she had this other bigger radio, and it would play, and she had that on WCHB 1440 WCHB Soul Radio. Okay. Anyway, but she would keep that on that station, and then they would play like the latest jams and stuff. And so I'm sitting up there and I'm thinking to myself, like, well, how does the music get into the box, right? And so anyway, so she leaves, goes out of town. While she's out of town, my curiosity got the best of me. So I dismantled the entire radio because I wanted to figure out how it worked. And then I started looking up the parts and all of that kind of stuff. And you know, and this was, and see, that's why I have no sympathy for children nowadays. You know, I'm on the earthquake tip. You know, F these kids because at that point you had to go to the library. You had to go to the librarian, the card catalog, all of this stuff, just to figure out like something like, you know, like they can do, like they walking around with cell phones and they, you know, all they gotta do is, you know, Google it or whatever, you know, whatever search engine they use, right? And it's in there, and it's literally in the palm of their hands, like that quick. So I'm thinking to myself, right? So I'm thinking to myself, oh no. So the worst part of it was I'm thinking, oh man, everybody, I'm gonna get like 3 butt kicks. She gonna whip my butt. My mother gonna whip my butt. Then my mother gonna tell my daddy, and my daddy gonna whip my butt. That's all I'm thinking about at that point. But she was like not thinking like that, which was really weird to me. She was like, she's like, you really wanted to know how that worked, huh? And I said, yes, Grandma. It's like, because I just wanted to know how the music got in there. I didn't want to, you know, I really wasn't trying to, you know, like destroy it or nothing like that. I just wanted to know how it worked. And so she did, and really, so she did with me. And I was like, wow. But that was kind of like a pivotal moment for me because at that point, I started like getting into stuff like that. And then when I got to be like 14 and we moved from Detroit into Southfield, Michigan. And when I got there, right, and I'm like, okay. And they had a radio station at the high school. And I was like, what? Say what? And so I just immersed myself thoroughly inside of that radio station. And everything, you know, every day I went to that station, and then I found out there was some other famous radio people that had gone to that high school and this, that, and the other thing. So that's what I did. And so I did that every day. And then so as I progressed, like when I remember first going on the air and stuff, I was, you know, I was horrible. But the one thing that I learned was that radio waves worked on crystals. So all of a sudden, I'm just like, okay, so y'all use the radio wave, y'all use these crystals to do this, but if I use them to try to heal my family, then it's evil or demonic, or it's somehow, you know, occult or this, that, and the other thing. And so this is all of this to say this. Everybody is trying to manipulate the spiritual world. Everybody. When you pray, that's a form of spiritual manipulation. When you meditate, that is a form of spiritual manipulation. You're trying to change the trajectory of the spirituality. Or you're trying to either attract something, get something, or to repel something or get something away from you. So, and everything in the universe is alive that's doing the same thing, because that's what the whole even with the planets and stars and everything like that, that's what the whole thing about gravitational pulls and all of that stuff is. So even stuff like the law of attraction, when you have the same energy, same energies, or sometimes even opposite energies, what they attract. And it's scientific. It's not even, it's not even what you think it is. And the other fact of the matter is that because they've always known all of this stuff, right? And they prohibited the lower level people from engaging in it or using it, or they allowed the governments to develop or use the technology, or to hide or not use the technology. So now the things that Terrence Howard and that Billy Carson and that Neil deGrasse Tyson are saying, these things are coming to, they're coming full circle. Because that was all like the flower of life. Like, that was always a question I had. I was like, well, what's in the holes? Or what's in the, it's like it is just like a simple question. It's like, like a may seem like a foolish question, but I've always looked at it and been like, almost like, yeah, like, so where's the rest? And and so I'm a nerd, I'm weird and stuff like that. So but somehow the divine creative energy, the divine creator, the divine energy asked me those, or made me curious about things like that. And then, so I get Terrence Howard. I get him. Like, so well. I get him. And y'all need to listen to what he's saying and understand it, because it's literally going to change everything. They're going to try to suppress it and keep it down and all of that kind of stuff, or they're gonna come through and try to say that it's not true, or that it's, that he's, like somebody already said, he was on drugs or whatever. But if he's on drugs and he came up with the theories, and look, let me explain something. This man holds 97 patents. They don't just hand patents out. They don't. They check that stuff out. And it seems like the United States government has given them 97 of them bad boys. And the same thing with the stuff that Billy Carson is talking about. Even with all of the stuff going back into the ancient, and this is the reason why a lot of us fell away from the church. Because once you find out what the real truth is behind a lot of the documentation that's out there, and see, I tell people all the time, like, it's not even about Kemet. Because Kemet is not even Kemet was not even the greatest civilization within Africa, in ancient Africa. It wasn't. The only thing that made them stand out more than anything else was documentation. The fact that they wrote everything down, the hieroglyphs and all of that, everything that they wrote down in the tombs and all of that, which made them, special. But the knowledge that they had right there, that was in that library that they burned down and everything like that, all of that knowledge came from all over the African diaspora. It wasn't just them. They just had the wherewithal to write it all down. So that further goes into the fact of you got to understand that all of this knowledge and the knowledge has to be fed from somewhere, and that's the divine creative energy, that divine creative force. The whoever, however, whatever created us, that I'm thankful for and grateful for. and I love you all. That's all I can say. But check these brothers out. Fastest 15 minutes is up.